Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Gaming here, back into the video. Today's episode, we're taking a quick look at the Season 11 Minion Necromancer leveling guide. If you want to follow along, there's going to be a link in the description of the video. I think I'm going to do two links. There should be a link to this article, and there should be another link that takes you out to the actual build planner here. If you want to follow along with the guide, you can click on those links. That being said, let's go ahead and get started. So let's first go into the core skills here, and we're going to start out by taking Reap. So Reap is nice for this build because it comes with damage reduction. You see sort of in the bottom here, Reap increases your damage reduction by 50% for 4 seconds. And if an enemy hit by Reap dies within 2 seconds, you gain 30% attack speed. So this will also impact our minions, which is really nice. And you're using Reap, you're just kind of weaving Reaps in and out so that you can proc this attack speed bonus, as well as get that damage reduction off as well. Now, directly below that, we're also taking Blight. So Blight's going to be pretty nice because this is going to give us a multiplier for both elites and bosses. So Blight's not used quite as much for clearing trash. This is mostly going to be used for those bosses, for those elites. And you can see all the way at the very end, we take Supernatural Blight for that increased shadow damage to enemies within Blight. Moving a little bit further down, we are taking Decrepify. So Decrepify is very, very important to us because this has a lucky hit proc on this that will give us CDR on our spells. So if we go all the way down here to Abhorrent Decrepify, lucky hit, enemies hit while afflicted with your Decrepify have a 15% chance to reduce your active cooldowns by 1 second. So this is how we're going to be getting all the CDR on our abilities, is through this node here. Moving further down into the tree, we're also taking Corpse Tendrils. So this is going to pull all the mobs together for us and allow us to do massive AoE damage. And we'll be going all the way up to Blighted Corpse Tendrils. So Corpse Tendrils has a 35% chance to drop a Blood Orb when damaging enemies, which will heal us. And then moving down to our Soul Rift, we'll be putting max points into Soul Rift because it's very strong for us. This is what's going to give us the sustain to our build. So we have the CDR that we're getting from our Decrepify, and Soul Rift is going to give us Essence Sustain, and it's also going to apply Vulnerable for us as well. So a very, very strong ultimate, completely changes the way that Necromancer plays, so very happy to have that. And then down here at the very bottom, we're going to be taking Kalan's Edict, which is going to give us a massive buff to our minions. And then one thing to note, on our Soul Rift, you have pretty much permanent uptime on this due to the CDR reduction that we get from our Decrepify. So you get pretty much permanent sustain, which is why this build is so good for leveling. Perma vulnerable, perma essence, perma CDR on all your spells, just really, really strong overall build. So let's talk a little bit about the actual rotation here. So I'm going to go back to the article for this portion. So you want to open with Blight if you are against any sort of elites or bosses, right? That's going to give us that damage multiplier. From here, you want to go into your Corpse Tendrils immediately. This is going to group everything up for us, and then this is also going to spawn those Blood Orbs for us. We also have a buff that we do need to maintain through our Raise Skeleton. So if we read out Raise Skeleton here, briefly summons a Skeletal Priest to empower your minions for 8 seconds, increasing their damage by 50% and healing them for 40% of their max life. So this is a button that you want to stay on top of. Every time that's available, just go ahead and press it. And this is also going to fuel your Flesh Eater, which is actually a Paragon node. So I know this is a leveling guide, but just know that there's a lot of things that proc from this as you continue to push into higher torments, and then also Fueled by Death, which is a talent that we're taking. You deal increased damage for 6 seconds after consuming a corpse, right? Because to use our Raised Skeleton, we have to raise it from a corpse. And then finally here, just use Soul Rift constantly. Keep Decrepify up as much as you possibly can, and really just use any sort of ability while it's up. So, once you get to step 4, you're casting Decrepify, you're casting your Reap, you're continuing to cast your Corpse Tendrils, and just sort of continue that cycle. Okay, now in terms of your Book of the Dead, this will say to sacrifice some minions, but that's not actually correct. I need to update that. So you'll be going Skeletal Warriors, Skeletal Mages, you'll be going Shadow and Reapers. Reapers are going to give us some CDR, Shadow's going to give us some increased damage, and then Blood Golem. So if you're running into survivability issues, you can actually go ahead and replace one of these spells with your Blood Golem. I'd recommend to replace your Blight with Blood Golem. So you just come in here, right? Change it to Golem and change this to Blood. If you're having no survivability issues though, I would recommend to just simply run Blight and then go ahead and sacrifice your Golem here to give you some increased max life. Then in terms of our divine gifts, we're going to be going the Unstoppable with Shadows. We're going to be going increased resistance through Screams. We're going to be going increased armor through Sin. and then healing potion with Squalor. Squalor can actually be changed out, so I like Squalor because it's going to give you those experience gloves, but you can also change this out with Essence of Pain as well if you'd rather have some barrier. But I think you'd rather have that extra XP from Squalor. In terms of runes that you're going to be taking, you're going to be taking Igni and Thul here at the very bottom. So casting a non-basic skill will grant you Offering, and you'll spend that Offering on Mystical Frost Nova that will freeze and vulnerable enemies. This will allow you to pretty much permanently kite. And then down here in your weapon, you'll be running Ahu and Quacks. So you have a chance to proc this against a non-healthy enemies, gaining Offering, and then consuming a skill other than a basic or a defensive will consume all your primary resources for increased damage. In your rings, you're going to be running a double physical resistance as well as resist all elements. Okay, then let's talk about some aspects that you'll want to get. So the first one I'd really recommend to get is aspect of the Curse Aura. So a dark aura surrounds you, inflicting Decrepify. So what this means is you can actually replace this Decrepify with something else. You could replace it like with the golems, for example, if you'd like to do that. But you could take it off your bar, but you still want to have points into Decrepify, right, so that we can get the CDR from it. But you could take it off your bar and just replace it with something else. So I'd highly recommend to pick up those. You can also use Bloodgetter's Aspect, which is pretty strong. The Skeletal Priests that we summon empower us. Aspect of the Dam, which makes sense with our Decrepify. They're going to take increased damage from us. Aspect of Grasping Veins is also really strong, and this can give us Critical Strike chance after casting Corpse Tendrils, along with some Critical Strike bonus damage as well. You can pick both of these up from specific dungeons. Aspect of Hardened Bones is going to give us some damage reduction. Aspect of Occult Dominion, so it's going to increase the number of Skeletal Warriors and Skeletal Mages by 2. Frenzied Dead as well. This is going to give us some increased minion damage. The Great Feast. This is going to give our minions more damage, but they will drain essence from us. Then finally, Aspect of Reanimation here. Again, just more minion damage. Yeah, guys, that's pretty much going to be it for this guide. Pretty short and sweet. Again, we're going to have links in the description to this build planner as well as the article. I'm going to go through and clean up this article a little bit more. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. See you guys in the next one.